My name is Mary Kay Chicoine, and I'm here to tell you some of the historical events that I've lived through and how they've affected me and what I've seen of their effect on our country.
During your childhood, were there any key moments such as the Cuban Missile Crisis or the Cold War that stuck with you?
When I was in sixth grade is when it really dawned on me that thing that they called the Cold War. Um, I'm not sure exactly, when you're really young, you're kind of focused on yourself more, and then as you get older, then you focus on more outside things. So I don't know if there was something in particular that was going on at the time or not, but all of a sudden we started having air raid uh, talk, and in school we had to watch movies about if the air raid siren, which we have one right next to the school, if the siren goes off and it has a certain tone, then everybody has to take shelter because there's an imminent attack from Russia. And I lived in San Jose, and we had them off the field, and that was supposed to be like one of the big targets. So they would they would show a circle of like the target, from Moffett Field, and then the next range out, and then further out, and we were pretty close. So, um, so we probably wouldn't have even made it at all anyway. But anyhow, everybody was into making their little family plan. And our plan was that our house had hallway with the bedrooms off the hallway, so we were all going to go to the hallway. And we had a closet in the hallway, and we had a large family, so we bought fruit bought crates of fruit, apples and oranges, and so we always had a bunch of fruit in there. So if necessary, we have that there, and we also had some cans of stuff that was just that was a storage spot. My dad even he did bury some big bottle of water out in the backyard. When you think back of it, it's like a lot of good that's going to do, but that was kind of the mindset. And at school we had duck and cover exercises where if the air raid siren went off, we were supposed to duck under our desk and put our hands over our head and crunch down, as small as we could get. Anyhow, that was in the sixth grade. A lot of people were really scared. They thought it was going to be, it was going to happen any time. And by the time I was in the seventh grade, I was I don't remember what they call them, but a person that went off to the meetings on this and came back and disseminated the information I would find out from the meetings on what we were supposed to do. And I went one time with a friend to a homeowners association meeting in the area that she lived in San Jose also, and they were having a meeting. They were building a bomb shelter on a lot that the homeowners association owned, and so they were going to build this bomb shelter, and they were trying to figure out, okay, the rules for this bomb shelter. If you are at home and you have visitors, and the alarms go off and whatever, and you take off to the bomb shelter, do your friends get to come in, your visitors, or not? Because they haven't, it's not their bomb shelter, and they haven't paid the dues or whatever. So, or how long do we keep the doors unlocked? Say like take the ones furthest away from the bomb shelter a period of time to get in. How long? What do you do about people knocking on the door after you close the doors? I mean, it was very strange. But that was the mindset of the people that were, of that period of time. And then, uh, luckily, we don't have to worry about that, partly because of Ronald Reagan and his thinking.
During your life, were there any turbulent or challenging times, such as the Vietnam War?
I was in high school around the early senior year, and in our class we were talking about the news that we had been hearing about advisors being in Vietnam. And we were all kind of talking about, what's these advisors in Vietnam, this place? Where is this country? And we happened to have a pull-down map next to where we were sitting, and we pulled this map down of the world, and we looked all over for Vietnam, finally finding it. And I thought, oh, we're there? That was kind of strange. We really didn't know too much about it. And so then, as time went on, because we had looked up and we knew where it was, it became more important to us. There was more news. I read a book by Tom Dooley, who was a young doctor. I think he was in the Navy. And he had gone over to Vietnam, and he was working with the people. And he was very much feeling, seeing the communists, how the things they were doing to the people, he was very much in favor of the United States going into Vietnam. And he was very convincing, and I was in favor of it too, or at least knew the people needed help. And so from there, as our school year went on, next thing we know, we have recruiters, Army recruiters on our campus, and came out, and people started getting drafted. And then it became a big thing. And it went on and on and on. It just seemed to snowball, and it went from something that was like nobody knew about to something that was so huge that and affected me so much that it makes it very difficult I can't watch a movie about Vietnam. I watched one with Bette Midler on it, and that was so disturbing to me, just bringing back all the memories of that time. Meanwhile,
During JFK's election, did he bring hope, and how did his assassination affect the world?
John F. Kennedy became president. That was it started out very hopeful. It was really a hopeful time. He was young, energetic, had new ideas, new things were being invented, the space program, the Peace Corps, all kinds of things were happening, and things were very hopeful. And then came the assassination, and I remember at that time, by that time I was married, and I had our first little boy, which was Louis Chicoine, and I was feeding him, and I had the radio on, and it had a program called Art Linkletter's House Party, and I used to listen to that every morning, and it was a fun program. And they broke in to that program and said the president has been shot. And that was just really, really traumatic, not only in our country, but around the world. A really moving, kind of very shocking thing. So for the days until it started the funeral, we didn't have a TV at that time. We had just gotten married, and We lived in a small apartment behind a bigger house, and we didn't have a TV, so they invited us over that we could watch the funeral on the TV. So we went over there, and it was very, moving and solemn. And then they broke into the coverage of the funeral to show Texas, where at the police station where they were taking out the man that they thought had shot the president, and the reporters are like right there, and this guy comes right up and shoots this suspect of killing the president right in front of the TV cameras. It's a wonder somebody else didn't get shot too. So in the midst of this funeral, we have this other thing going on. It was just really troubling times. It was, I think we all kind of grew up real fast. It was, it was like part of our family. All these things were happening to a family member or something. And of course, all the emotions that had to do with the funeral, and all the hope and sunshine that came at the beginning of this administration, and then to have, it just was all dashed. President Johnson took over, and then we go back to the Vietnam War. It was really such a mess and a terrible thing. All the people trying to get it stopped, and all that whole thing. It was very disturbing.
Besides Vietnam, was there anything that was devastating, such as Watergate, and how did that separate our country today?
I think Watergate was the next big historical thing. President Nixon had come in, and it kind of showed what power does to you, and what the need for power, to stay in power. And so here he had become president, and then people under him started doing things they shouldn't be getting into. And by the way, Vietnam was still going on, and it was it turned into such a huge mess that I think Watergate is a lot of why our country is like it is now, that it's so polarized. The White House transcripts, yeah, so it's the recordings that were made from President Nixon's office that nobody really knew there was a recording going on, except very few people. And so there were just some tapes that were destroyed, and and it showed a lot of things that we didn't know about some of the high officials in Washington. I think that through the whole hearings, it took so long to go through all this, and we just found out that our leaders were duplicitous. So they were, they were worse than the average person. And so I think the Republican Party actually was hurt so much by that whole thing, their ego, that I feel that really made some of the division that we have now is left over from that. And it makes me think that, the lesson is that you really have to be not only a good loser, but also a good winner, and not rub it in, because it can create things later on that, wounds that have a long, long time to heal.